Namaste, beautiful soul. Welcome to the Blooming Lotus Healing Channel. My name is Jikara, and I'm a spiritual healing facilitator. And please excuse my voice. I've been kind of coming back from the retreat, and my voice was a little raspy. And today I kind of strained my voice. But I wanted to do this video. If I sound a little weird, just know I just strained my voice a little bit, but it'll get back to normal soon. So today I'm going to talk about my second 10-day silent Vipassana retreat that I just did for the month of October. I just came back from the retreat. I actually drove about 19 hours to Illinois, to a center, a Vipassana center in Illinois, to sit for my second time for a Vipassana retreat. If you haven't seen my first video about my experience that I had back in 2019, please do check the description below. I'm gonna leave the link to that video so you can learn about that. Now, I just kind of wanted to share with you that when I recorded that video, you know, that was back in 2019, and I was recording that video on as I was getting ready to go to the Vipassana retreat for October this year. So it's been a couple of years, right? Like it's been about almost 4 years, right, since I was exposed to the practice of Vipassana. So there may be some updates, right, or some more really fresh details that I'll be able to share on the specific video. So it's a good idea for you to watch this video as well. So if this is your first time even learning about Vipassana, I'll just break it down for you in relationship to what it is. So Vipassana is a meditation technique that's been around about 2,500 years. It was originally taught by Buddha, and this was his practical way to teach people how to practice a technique that would help them, get to the point of their own personal enlightenment. So, one of the things that Buddha, and just like Christ and all the other big teachers in this on this planet, what they have done is that they have shared with us what they were doing for themselves, what they discovered, and they wanted us to follow the path, right? They wanted us to kind of take the same steps that they did. So instead of us kind of worshiping them, they wanted us to kind of follow the path. And that's what Buddha was doing back 2,500 years ago. So from what I've learned, kind of like refresh my memory when I was up at the retreat center, he was around in a time when meditation was already part of the practices in his area. However, he found a specific way that was important to follow, not only within the practice of the actual meditation technique, but also how do we align our lives and our lifestyle to kind of, in a way, support, right, the journey forward in our lives towards our own personal enlightenment and awakening and ascension, right? So one of the things that I was kind of refreshed into the journey was recognizing that we have three aspects that we want to really follow when we are trying to bring forth enlightenment in our lives. And the first aspect is the aspect of panya. And panya, is what it represents as morality, right? So like when we think about the 10 commandments, we think about all of the different rules and regulations that were given in religion, right? Which are very general, right? Like it's all about don't kill, don't steal from anyone, live a conscious and aware life. That is something that you want to obviously practice alongside with this technique to really experience the reality of the universe within your body. And the other thing that you want to practice as well is sama samadhi. And sama samadhi is the practice of really bringing discipline to the mind. And we bring discipline to the mind via our breath and observation. Not only via the observation of the breath, which that's the starter point, which is the anapana technique that we are taught at the beginning, and then entering into Vipassana once we practice the Anapana technique, which is fully focusing on the breath, and then kind of shifting over the focus into the body sensations. And then from there, we are kind of brought into panya. So panya is our own wisdom, right? Like the wisdom that we acquire from our own experience. So really what this technique brings to our life is the process of connecting to our own wisdom, to connect to ourselves, right? Going beyond the seeking outside of ourselves. Of course, we of course always can support each other, right, as human beings, but also remembering that we need to go back to self, to recognize the reality of the universe within ourselves, right? Which is we there's a saying in my country, and I'm going to say in Spanish, cada cabeza es un mundo. Every head, every mind is a world. And that is so true, right? Like all of us carry a world, carry an entire ecosystem in our mind, in our body. And so, how do we become a better human to ourselves and to others around us, is to really get to know ourselves intimately, right? And so this is what this technique brings into people's lives, and that's what personally has brought to me. It doesn't mean that I came out of it, out of a 10-day retreat, a second 10-day retreat, enlightening, with enlightenment, but I came out with deeper awareness of myself, with deeper understanding of the parts of me that were still kind of hurting, that were still, that were kind of pushed down under the rug for a while, and that needed to come up, that needed to be held, that needed to be processed. And so that's what the 10-day Vipassana retreat really does for people, at least personally for me, and what I've noticed with other people that the 10th day we get to speak to each other, just so that we can get that buffer, because you're in silence for 10 days. You don't have access to your phone, you don't have access to technology. You're basically just sitting with yourself, and the only type of interaction that you have is with your teacher. And then also there's some discourses, right, where they're teaching us the technique and the reason behind the technique and why we are doing the things that we're doing. So it's kind of like a pure, basically almost like a purification of the mind, right? Like we're just basically purifying the mind in that process. So anyway, going back to what I was mentioning, when on the 10th day, when I got to speak to other people, whether they were new students or old students, the message I got across the board was the fact that things that they were not aware of within themselves were able to be acknowledged at that moment. And so which is the same experience that I had. But not only the things that were in the mind that were kind of like what they call the impurities of the mind, or the negativities of the mind, right? That keep us kind of like in anxiety or depression or negativity, right? When those things come up, it's just like having this environment that is peaceful, that is silent, that allows us to really use this technique to process whatever it is that is coming through for us. So it's really powerful. And in a way, it's a really beautiful way to, I feel, integrate even things such as plant medicine. I feel like integration is a huge part of plant medicine retreats that I think are lacking. And I feel that taking a 10-day Vipassana retreat is a really powerful way to integrate. Maybe even after a session with a plant medicine such as ayahuasca or the sacred psilocybin mushroom, or any other, like iboga, or any other sacred medicines that are served around the world. And so, but going back to to the Vipassana a practice, it is really this specific technique is practiced in a way that if you want to experience the subtle sensations of your body, you really want to practice that silence. You want to practice that morality. And the morality, what that means is like you're not allowed to kill, not even an insect. You go into a vegetarian diet, so that you can really stay away from any killing, right? Because when we consume meats that are, even though we're not killing them directly, we are supporting the killing of an animal by eating a meat, or getting or purchasing a meat that, of course, a piece of meat obviously was an animal that was killed. So in this specific retreat, it's fully vegetarian, so that you can really go into that purification of the mind, body, and soul. And so I just kind of wanted to dive into that today, because I don't think I really dove into that on the first video that I did about Vipassana, and when I talked about my experience. And I feel like this is important. And so let me, as an old student, right? So I'm considered an old student because I have taken the course once. Once you take the course the first time, you're considered an old student. And so this was my second time sitting. And of course, it was very different actually to sit in this Vipassana retreat for the second time. So just in general, there were a couple of things that were super different, which was that the location itself was different, right? The first time I sat was at the one in Georgia, and then the second time I'm sitting at the one in Illinois. And so that in itself was already a difference, right? Like I was in a different location, it felt different. And the second thing that was different was that I had a different teacher, right? And so of course teachers are going to have a different style, even though they are sharing the main things that they're sharing with you are going to be pretty much standard in relationship to how to practice the technique. Still, every teacher has a different personality, you're feeling a different energy, so that in itself was a different experience, right? To be exposed to a teacher with a different energy, different personality, but either way, or even a different way to explain the technique, as any questions arise for me personally. And of course, as I observe the teacher answering questions for others as well. The other thing that was different was that this time I actually only had one teacher. The first time that I sat, there was a teacher for each, for the women, and one teacher for the men. And so there were two teachers on the first time, and the second time there was only one teacher. And so God bless him, he was so patient with us, and a lot of us had a lot of questions, right? And so especially the new students, right? Because when you're new, you don't know what how to really make like understand how to feel the sensations of the body. So it takes a little while for you to get used to the technique. So it made sense, right? Like that he would have a lot of the new students, because I was one of those. The first time, right? I had a lot of questions. The second time I had questions too. And it was because it was such a different experience. And I was realizing how I had a lot of emotional upheaval. I realized that last year was a very hard year for me. 2022, my mom was diagnosed with cancer, and then I was getting ready to get married, and there was a lot, right, that I was really struggling with, that I couldn't really process. I couldn't really sit and say, hey, let me just take a moment and process this, because it was go go go, right? I did get the chance to sit with Mama Aya, but I didn't really get the chance to integrate, or I still needed more time. And I even feel that I need to do another retreat, because there was still more that wanted to kind of be processed, and I felt that. But I'll get to that later on. But going back to the differences, right? And so that was definitely different. The fact that I was definitely feeling the difference with the teacher. But also the other difference that I had was I noticed that it was easier for me to practice the meditation for the hour long sessions, because we do 9.5 hours. I said 10 hours a day because it really does feel like 10 hours a day, but it's really 9.5 hours a day. And so 9.5 hours a day, we are doing meditation, and then we kind of take breaks, little 5-minute breaks in between. And of course, we take break to go to eat, and so forth. Of course, to go to the restroom and things of that nature. So that was definitely interesting to see myself being able to sit longer, and not feel the desperation that I felt when I was a new student. So that was really interesting. Like I could see how I have already integrated some of that 2019 experience that was still part of me. It was like really cool to witness within myself that that I had that stamina that I have built up from the first time. So that was very cool. The other thing that I noticed this time around that was very, very hard, was the fact that on the third day, so we learn anapana, or anapana is to really sharpen the mind. You're focusing on the breath, and so I am in the middle of Anapana, and not like I feel like my mind dove deep into things from my childhood, memories. Like, I had a memory of my dad, of like actually sitting with a toy in my room, and it was the light was off, and I was sitting with this toy that my dad got me when I was a kid, and I was feeling the grief that my inner child was feeling, and that was on day 3. So I feel like on day 3 and day 4, so I feel like I dove into my subconscious a little faster. It felt like I was able to go deeper, and faster this time around. So I wonder if maybe, that also correlates with being able to sit longer, and not being able to, and not having to move my body so much. So that was really cool. And I know I say really cool, but I mean, it was work. It was a lot of work, right? Like, I had to really put so much effort into processing all of this, right? And it wasn't easy. So it wasn't 10 days of fun, right? It was 10 days of really allowing myself to be with whatever grief wanted to express, right? And so that was the first thing. And then other things, came up for me, around my relationship with my mother-in-law, and also my relationship with my mom and my husband. And for my wedding last year, not I didn't have any family, blood family at my wedding. Nobody could really make it, including my own mom. There was a storm, and so my mom was able to basically be part of it through FaceTime. So that was really something that I was grieving, that I wasn't accepting, right? Like, for a while I was like, no, 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 everything is fine. But then I had to, like, really confront the fact that that was something that I was grieving, and that I needed to really acknowledge that, and give myself permission to be sad about it, and allow myself to just accept what it was, right? Because that's the whole idea of Vipassana, is to help us really accept what is, and not react to the things. I'm not going to say that I didn't react. Of course, I did. I did cry. I cried a lot throughout. I actually cried a lot more on this specific um, sitting that I did, more than I did on the first time. The first time, I remember I did cry a couple times, but this time I had cried. I had a lot more crying sessions, and so some of the crying sessions even were not attached to a memory, which was kind of interesting. So it was kind of it was almost like I was releasing whatever needed to be released without at that moment, without having to remember what it was. So I felt like it was probably past life, that some past life energy that needed to be processed through the body. And so there is something that is called adita, and adita is the strong determination to sit without moving for an hour. And you don't really start practicing that until the fifth day. The fourth day, we're taught Vipassana, the feeling the sensations of the body. And on the fifth day, we are encouraged to not move, and to practice strong determination to not move. And so, in that journey of strong determination, I really felt like I was able to drop into equanimity a little easier. And that was really beautiful, because there's a moment where you're sitting on the floor for a long time. There's a little bit of discomfort, and you're encouraged to allow yourself to sit with that physical discomfort, and allow yourself to observe it without reacting. And that is without reacting, meaning that you don't not moving, right? And so it doesn't mean that you have to torture yourself. If you need to move, you move, but giving yourself permission to sit with it, even if it's just for 10 seconds, without reacting, and just um noticing how your mind shifts. And it really does, your mind starts shifting, and there's a lot more equanimity which I thought that was very, very cool. Um, Now, one of the things that I asked my teacher, because I was like, listen, I took the first meditation um and retreat, and I did try to keep up with it, but it was very hard. Like, how can I make this practical in my life? Because one of the things that they recommend is for you to sit twice a day, and for an hour, and sometimes I couldn't do it twice a day. But I did notice, and that was something that did show up for me, was the fact that I stopped meditating last year. I did stop meditating in the middle of the of all the stress and all the thing. I feel like I needed to meditate more, but I didn't meditate in the way that I used to. And so I kind of let go of that discipline that I had. And so that was something that I was able to kind of determine there. But one thing that my teacher said was, even if you can't sit for 2 hours a day, trying to break it down 30 minutes, right? Like giving yourself 30 minutes, 30 minutes, or 30 minutes, right? Like giving yourself like maybe an hour and a half. And then breaking it down in a way that is more, a bite size, so it's easier for you. And so I thought that was very cool. Another thing that I thought was very cool, because I was asking him about, because we talk about non-attachment, right? And we talk about non-reactivity and accepting things as they are. But I was like, well, what about the moments where there are changes that I want to make in my life, and I don't feel happy with the way things are? How do I know, right? If this is something that I'm attached to, or maybe this is something that really needs to shift. And that's where I really appreciated his answer, because he mentioned something along the lines of, if it's something that is hurting you, if it's something that is truly, unhealthy for you, then of course, absolutely, the change is absolutely necessary. And you still want to show up for yourself. You still, non-attachment or equanimity doesn't mean that you don't take action. You still take action in life. So that was really nice to be able to kind of recognize this, and be able to say, okay, I still, even I still get to practice acceptance, and at the same time take action and change if something needs to change. So that was very cool for me personally, because I was struggling with that. I was struggling with the idea of having to accept everything, and then maybe me doing something wrong because I wasn't accepting the situation, right? And so again, going back to what is healthy for us, right? And recognizing that. Um Another thing, I have my notes here, so I'm going to share. One thing that I notice is I feel like I had a moment, I felt like I was going backwards, because the body sensations that I had on the first time, I didn't have on the second time. I felt like the subtle sensations that you're supposed to feel didn't show up for me until way after, and deeper into the retreat. I feel like I was on the ninth day, and I was like, what is going on? But it's like, you got to practice non-attachment, right? And so, like, I noticed that the sensation experience changed. And so reminding myself of the concept of anicca. And anicca is all about change. Everything is constantly changing. So whether it is good, bad, middle, up, down, subtle, harsh, whatever that experience is going to change. And so that was really interesting to kind of be in a space of recognizing that those moments where I didn't feel the sensations, or there was numbness, that too shall pass. So, and I feel like there was a correlation between my emotional state when all these upheavals started, and the sensations. So I noticed that I automatically have had this feeling of numbness. And something that came up for me was emotional eating. And so I noticed that my relationship with food has been a process of not only to, of course, sustain myself, which is the relationship that we should have with food, right? But it was also a relationship of numbing my emotions. And so it was interesting how I was feeling my body going numb whenever I was getting that upheaval of emotions, even though I couldn't really eat anything, but I felt that numbing sensation of my body. And it was really cool to actually come into that awareness, in that knowing, because I had the knowing at the intellectual level, but I did not have the knowing at the body level. And that's what I love about Vipassana, is that it brings you into the awareness of you within within the within the constraints of your body, right? And so being able to really get to know yourself at a deeper level within the sensations of your body. So that was something that I was able to really bring that aha moment for myself. So that actually brought forth, when I came out of the retreat, I have been consciously working towards building a different relationship with food. And so I've been consciously building towards, okay, eating only when I'm hungry, and then also giving myself permission to feel hungry as well, to allow myself to feel hungry, to learn what it means to be hungry, to feel hungry, versus always eating and never knowing when I am hungry or not. So I've been kind of practicing that and experimenting with myself, so that I can see where that takes me, and so towards a healthier relationship with food. And so one thing that I thought it was very interesting for me personally was that as an old student, you're actually not allowed to eat after afternoon. And you really don't need to eat a lot. And at first I was a little nervous, like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to eat dinner. And I'm only going to be able to drink tea. But actually, to be honest with you, I did not miss it. I was fine, because I was meditating for so long and so many hours a day, that the anxiety, the constant anxiety, the constant, go go go, like I'm doing stuff on social media, I'm running my small business, and I've been doing all of this by myself. And I realized that I've been carrying a big load on my shoulders for so long. And I'm like, no wonder, right? And so noticing how I need to shift certain things, I need to start shifting my life and my schedule, so that I can include more of the self-care into my routine, right? And so, and recognizing that this is something that also serves for the highest good of my job, right? For what I do, like, I feel like it is my duty to take care of myself if I'm going to be holding space for others and doing energy work for others. Like, this for me, going to the Vipassana retreat, is my duty to you. It's my duty to myself. It's my duty to my loved ones. It's a duty, and it doesn't feel heavy at all. If anything, I feel very grateful that I get to do this, and also very happy to do it, because I know the benefits that are going to come afterwards. So I don't feel any heaviness around that, or anything like, oh, I don't want to do this. No, I feel excitement and joy regarding taking these silent retreats. So I felt that, I was made aware of things that I need to change in my routine, and so that I can start incorporating more of the meditation in my life, more time of meditation, and then also spread out the tasks of my day, so that I don't feel overwhelmed and so anxious. So that was a big uh, let's say, acknowledgement that I had to make for myself. Like, I had to um that I was made aware of, basically, that I had to, like, come into terms and recognize that, we are programmed to hustle, we're programmed to work harder, we're programmed to be the best, we're programmed to be the biggest, we're programmed to be the greatest, we're programmed to be the one that works the hardest. And the reality is that um, we tend to dishonor ourselves a lot of times, in order to comply with this way of thinking. And so, with that said, I was really made aware of that, and there's going to be some changes in my routine and in my schedule moving forward. Right now, I'm kind of coming back. I just integrated. I already have my schedule set up with my clients and everything. So I'm gonna have to kind of do like a transition, but definitely I'm planning to transition into a routine that really better serves my mental health and my emotional health, my spiritual health. So in turn, I can be even better and show up even more for everything that I do. So it's not easy to run a spiritual business because there is the 3D aspect of things and there's the 5D aspect or beyond. There's a spiritual aspect, and they kind of don't like to be together. Like, I feel like spiritual and business don't like to be together sometimes. And so you have to kind of struggle with that push and pull that they both want to express there. So, but I feel like there is a possibility to find balance, as long as, of course, we stay in integrity. So that's another thing. It's like, how do we, practice our spiritual businesses with integrity? And that is definitely a dance that we have to do as practitioners. So anyway, so those were the differences. And so things that I came out with, right, which I kind of mentioned, the whole, caring for my spiritual, mental, and physical health, and doing things and making changes that are aligned with those energies. And I felt like there was a strong sense of personal responsibility to take back my physical, my mental, and spiritual health, and to make changes and shifts in my life right now. So that was something that I came out with, which was really powerful. And another thing that I came out with was, which it happened last time, this time around, is that uh, I came out of there vegetarian, and so I kind of came out of it vegetarian because I didn't want to shock my body, and but I also felt incredible eating plant based, and so I said, my gosh, like, what am I doing? Like, this is great. So I felt like that deeper purification that happened there was really great. And so I kind of gave myself permission to stay vegetarian as long as I need to. So I don't necessarily subscribe to, oh, you have to be this way, otherwise you're going to hell. I don't really believe in that. But I do believe that if our body is telling us, hey, this makes me feel good, then why not continue that, right? And so that's the reason why I decided to go plant based. So vegetarian, meaning that I still have dairy, I still have eggs, even though there it was no eggs, but there was dairy available. I incorporated eggs when I came out because I was driving down, and it was going to be hard for me to find healthy, wholesome meals like they served at the retreat center. So I thought that was important for me to incorporate, so to help myself in that journey back. And so another thing that I that I found is that I am seeing a little bit more the practical ways that I can incorporate Vipassana in my life, even just Anapana, or just, but Vipassana in general. So I'm looking at how can I incorporate this. So I noticed that I was, kind of not going on my phone as much, being present when I eat. I noticed that I actually have been feeling resistance towards my phone and going back. I'm even part of groups, and I've been having a really hard time going back, because I realized that that was also kind of pushed, taking my energy. And so, how can we, practice that energy hygiene? So that's something that I'm contending with right now, seeing what things I need to say no to, what things do I continue. And so that's where I'm at this very moment, is recognizing, where do I need to start, cutting the cords, and so that I can start, becoming more present in my life. And so yeah, so that was another thing that I thought that was very interesting. It was the relationship with my phone has changed, and I feel more. And I was actually feeling, before the Vipassana retreat, I was feeling very frustrated because I kept going to the phone. And so it's beautiful because they take the phone from you, so then you kind of have those 10 days to really detox from being on the phone so much. And so that was really great. And so yeah, so one thing I wanted to say too here, during this journey, as you know, I am working on an Oracle deck, and I got some downloads for my Oracle deck. So I'm going to be adding some additional cards based on the Oracle deck downloads that I received while I was at the retreat. And little thing I wanted to share. So if you don't know, I'm creating the Spirit of Psilocybin Oracle deck, and the Spirit of Psilocybin came forth and wanted to bring forth messages to the world, because the Spirit of Psilocybin isn't happy with the way it's being used, and is also worried about the fact that people are getting caught up in the hallucinatory aspects of the medicine. And so and then people are missing the actual medicine that it wants to come forth. And so not everyone, but there is an amount of people that are missing the medicine and that are not integrating, right? Because that's another thing that I mentioned at the beginning, the integration. And so this deck is going to help people with the integration of the medicine, also for people who are curious to connect with the messages of the mushroom, but don't want to take the medicine. Then they can directly relate to the Oracle deck. But the mushrooms are directly related to the spirit of corn, and the spirit of corn came to me in my dreams when I started channeling the Oracle, the spirit of psilocybin. And so one of the things that I thought was really beautiful was the fact that Illinois, which I wasn't aware of, Illinois is a state of corn. And when I got to the retreat center, I saw that I was surrounded by cornfields, and that was significant, specifically in the journey of creating the Oracle deck. Because when I started in the journey of really connecting deeper with the spirit of psilocybin, the spirit of corn came in my dreams, and the ancestors that are caring for the corn told me that I would not be shown the fields of corn until I was ready. And I was shown the fields of corn uh, this uh, this time in October, and so it felt very significant, and really powerful. And so I'm really excited about that. And you're probably wondering, well, what does corn have to do with spirit of psilocybin? Well, let me tell you, with Maria Sabina, who is the original shaman who introduced the spirit of psilocybin to this man. I can't remember the name of the guy who introduced it into Time magazine back in I think it's the 40s or the 50s. Um, she introduced the spirit of psilocybin to this man through giving him the access to consuming the psilocybin mushroom. But in the area of Oaxaca, which is where she was located, there's the indigenous tribes, they grow corn, and the psilocybin mushroom grows in the wild. She didn't grow it herself. She would collect it from the wild, and there were different types actually of mushrooms that she would collect that contain the spirit of psilocybin. And so the spirit of corn and the spirit of psilocybin are really interconnected in a very unique way, almost as if the spirit of corn feeds the spirit of psilocybin. And so it felt very significant that I was surrounded by the energy of corn, because again, it's feeding, right? It's feeding the spirit of psilocybin and the etheric and the spiritual connection that I've been uh, developing with the spirit of psilocybin. So the spirit of corn, again, brought forth some messages with the spirit of psilocybin. So that showed up for me during the retreat, and that was really powerful. So I'm really excited about this deck, and I feel so grateful and so honored to be able to bring this forth. And if you want to find out more about the Spirit of Psilocybin deck that I have been creating, I want to invite you to go over to Instagram, and I want to share here real quick the the handle for Instagram, so that you can go in there and follow. You can go in there and sign up for the email list. I will be, of course, keeping people updated with everything that's happening. I am most likely going to be launching out for availability. Right now I've been looking at printers, and of course I'm also working in the book. So as but I will be doing readings. I'm going to start doing readings with this deck. I originally I printed a sample deck just to see how it is, how it feels, how it holds up as I use it. And so with that said, this is going to be a really special process, because as I do readings for people and for the Cosmic Light Activation Group, which I've been already doing readings with the Spirit of Psilocybin deck, um as I continue to download messages, then this is going to help me actually create the book. So there's going to be a lot of educational aspects in the book that are going to be important, because that is something that we want to honor. We want to honor the cultural parts of this medicine that was originally introduced, right, by Maria Sabina, right? And so we want to really honor the roots, right, of who started this journey of bringing this forth into the world. And she really had such a hard life after she introduced the spirit of psilocybin, a mushroom, to the West, or to the US, that she was even shunned away by her own tribe. So, this is a way of celebrating her, in the medicine and the loving energy that she introduced us to, and to also, in a way, help educate people, so that they can really start seeing the mushroom from a place of sacredness, and not a place of experience, but more so a medicine, to partake and to receive, and to really allow to to integrate into our hearts. And so, but anyway, that's all I have here. I know I kind of sidetracked with the spirit of psilocybin mushroom here. So this was a really beautiful experience. There's so much more that I could talk about the Vipassana retreat, but all I can tell you is if you are thinking about doing one, don't hesitate. Just go for it. It is fully run by volunteers. You don't have to pay anything. They don't accept payments from anyone except old students. And the old students, what we do is that we donate. So to help these centers continue to run, we not only donate money, but we also donate our time. So everyone that's in the kitchen, they're donating their time, and their efforts and their love, so that you can actually have an amazing retreat. And so even the teachers, no one there gets really paid. Everyone is running the center. So all the funds go into upkeep of the center, for food. It goes for improvements of the center, and so forth. So it truly is such a pure space to go visit. So I'm gonna leave on the description below a link to the General Vipassana Dhamma website, so that you can go look, and you can search their centers around the world, so that you can go look and see if there's one close to you, so that you can go and apply for a 10-day course. So anyway, I love you all. I hope that this helped you. I hope that this inspired you, especially if you're maybe thinking about sitting again. Just know your experience is not going to be the same. So try not to attach yourself too much to the first experience. Allow yourself to be present with what is. And yes, anicca, and practicing upekkha, equanimity, as you move into that journey of releasing and really purifying your mind, body, and soul. I love you all, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Mwah. Namaste.